Hey, everybody. Welcome back to TNTT, Truth Not Trash with Tim. And we're going to continue our special series on the Constitution. We're on episode 6. And I don't know if it's going to be the most exciting episode, but it's definitely stuff that we need to cover. So we're still on Article 1. Remember what I told you? Article 1, longest one. But we're going to do the last two sections tonight, and then we'll move on to Article 2. But there's a couple things we need to do. We need to talk a little bit. Um, so we're working on this Constitution. We're delving into it. We're figuring things out, but we're getting a real-time lesson on how the Constitution works in our political system today. I mean, we truly are. And I'm not going to lie to you today, man. Oh man, I I had a frustrating day. So my wife and I decided to go out shopping, get a few things. So we went over to Mount Vernon, and the stores were requiring these stupid face masks on your faces. Uh, I got to the point where I just stayed in the car. I can't deal with the idiocracy of this whole thing, right? I mean, look at the Costco over in Eastern Washington. They had one of the biggest outbreaks they've had in a store so far, and every freaking person was wearing a mask. So you can't tell me. I'm just done with it. I'm done with it. And you know what? Um, we're we're gonna play our little video like we always do, and then afterwards, I'm gonna give you kind of my real opening statement. But I'm just done with it. I'm done with it. And if you want to be done with it, pay attention to what we're going to talk about on this series of the Constitution, because it's something that we have to do. So anyway, I am going to pull up that video that I was talking about. Let me see if I can do this. Once again, I'm still figuring out this software, which is just crazy. There's ways of doing this to where you can queue up a whole bunch of stuff in a row. But man, I can't for the life of me figure out how to do it. So let's make sure that I have the right one. And that is not the right one. So we're going to try again. Let's see. We're going to view a Chrome tab. And then we're going to look at that guy. Oh, geez. You know what? I'm just going to close that one. How about that? And then we ain't got to worry about it no more. There it is. Unreal. So share the audio. Let me make it big.
Have you ever wondered who has the authority to make laws or punish people who break them? When we think of power in the United States, we usually think of the president, but he does not act alone. In fact, he is only one piece of the power puzzle, and for very good reason. When the American Revolution ended in 1783, the United States government was in a state of change. The founding fathers knew that they did not want to establish another country that was ruled by a king. So the discussions were centered on having a strong and fair national government that protected individual freedoms and did not abuse its power. When the new Constitution was adopted in 1787, the structure of the infant government of the United States called for 3 separate branches, each with their own powers, and a system of checks and balances. This would ensure that no one branch would ever become too powerful, because the other branches would always be able to check the power of the other 2. These branches work together to run the country and set guidelines for us all to live by. The legislative branch is described in Article 1 of the U.S. Constitution. Many people feel that the Founding Fathers put this branch in the document first because they thought it was the most important. The legislative branch is comprised of 100 U.S. senators and 435 members in the U.S. House of Representatives. This is better known as the U.S. Congress. Making laws is a primary function of the legislative branch, but it is also responsible for approving federal judges and justices, passing the national budget, and declaring war. Each state gets 2 senators and some number of representatives, depending on how many people live in that state. The executive branch is described in Article 2 of the Constitution. The leaders of this branch of government are the president and vice president, who are responsible for enforcing the laws that Congress sets forth. The president works closely with a group of advisors known as the cabinet. These appointed helpers assist the president in making important decisions within their area of expertise, such as defense, the Treasury, and Homeland Security. The executive branch also appoints government officials, commands the armed forces, and meets with leaders of other nations. All that combined is a lot of work for a lot of people. In fact, the executive branch employs over 4 million people to get everything done. The third branch of the U.S. government is the judicial branch and is detailed in Article 3. This branch is comprised of all the courts in the land, from the federal district courts to the U.S. Supreme Court. These courts interpret our nation's laws and punish those who break them. The highest court, the Supreme Court, settles disputes among states, hears appeals from state and federal courts, and determines if federal laws are constitutional. There are 9 justices on the Supreme Court, and unlike any other job in our government, Supreme Court justices are appointed for life, or for as long as they want to stay. Our democracy depends on an informed citizenry, so it is our duty to know how it works and what authority each branch of government has over its citizens. Besides voting, chances are that sometime in your life you'll be called upon to participate in your government, whether it is to serve on a jury, testify in court, or petition your congressperson to pass or defeat an idea for a law. By knowing the branches, who runs them, and how they work together, you can be involved, informed, and intelligent.
All right. So I know this video was a little older. You could tell by the pictures of the president and the vice president. Hopefully, we'll continue to be able to refer to that second person as vice president going into the future. But yeah, it's something we need to consider. Is there's 3 different branches, and once we get done with Article 1, we'll get into Article 2, which is the executive branch. Then we'll talk about the judicial branch. So we're going to cover all this stuff. So I thought it was a great little video. Once again, would have been nice to just transpose that out, wouldn't it? But unfortunately, that's not the way it works. So let me get something going here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to bring up my opening statement real quick. And I'm going to leave that picture of the Constitution up there while I'm talking to you guys. So something that we need to be aware of. I mean, as we all know, the Constitution is made clear that all the powers in our country are supposed to reside with the people. That's you and I. As law-abiding citizens or people, we decide what the government can and can't do. And it's all according to the Constitution. Actually, the Constitution is there more so to limit the government than the people. We've talked about that. Elections, they are probably the single biggest thing other than the Constitution that we have to preserve our republic and our democracy. And if we lose that, if we lose the integrity of our elections, man, I just don't know. There's no way to preserve the Constitution if we lose the integrity of the elections. And so we need to stand up. I mean, without that, we might as well just put Bill Gates in charge and call him the new supreme leader, right? So it's up to us to hopefully conserve the Constitution, the integrity of the vote. It's up to our elected officials to do that, our representatives, to get that right and not let this deceit happen again. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And I'm trying to stay on my notes here, but boy, I get so passionate, especially considering what happened earlier today out there with this stupid mask thing. So as for rights, the only way we lose them is if we give them up. If we give up our rights, they're just gone. And I'm a military guy. I've been around the world a couple times. I've been to countries that have very few individual rights for their people, that are dictatorships, that are communism, that are just, they say, some of them say they're democracies, but they just rule with an iron fist. And so I know what it is like to not have these things. I know how important it is to be an American and how important it is to stand up for what we have. I mean, here's the thing. Take the mask BS, for instance. If we don't want to wear masks, or the mind control devices, as I like to call them, um, then we need to make it clear that we're not going to wear them. And how do we do that? We do that by not wearing them. And the more of us that don't wear them, the more of us that won't wear them, right? I hate to say it, but people are sheeple. They truly are. So they need somebody to get out there and lead. I'm not going to wear the damn thing. It's just not going to happen for me. If I have to wear it to make a living at my job because I work for the Navy, that's about the only time. And even then, I only wear it when I'm absolutely have to, and I'm sitting right next to an active duty guy who has to abide by the rules. So, and I don't want him or her to get in trouble. So what I'm saying is that you and I run the country. We have opportunities here that are found nowhere else in the world. I talked about that with other countries that I've been to. So the beauty of it is that in the United States, we're all equal, and we have the freedom to succeed or fail based on who we are, as far as our abilities and our tenacity. And if we fall off the horse, do we get up and try again, or do we just give up? Right? It's all based on you and what you want to accomplish. If you want to live in the streets, feel free to live in the streets, but I'm not going to pay you to do it. And I don't think our government should either. So, as the attorney Lynn Wood would say, stand up for your freedoms and don't be intimidated, even if they put you in jail. And what I'm going to add to that is that they can't put us all in jail. So let's stand up and get this done. Okay, so with all that being said, let's get to the Constitution, because I'm like 10 minutes into this thing already. And we haven't even got to the Constitution portion. So let me get my glasses on. There they are. I will pull up the Constitution. At least I'll try to. The interactive Constitution that we have. Oh boy. There it is. And let me share the screen with you guys. And there it is. So this is the same one that we've been working with. I would recommend everybody get on this website and check it out and read it. So we are going to pass powers. We're going right to number 9. Powers denied Congress. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to highlight it. So the migration or importation of such persons as any of the states now existing shall think proper to admit shall not be prohibited by the Congress prior to the year 1808, but a tax or duty may be imposed on such importation not exceeding $10 for each person. So this goes back to the beginning of our nation. When people were coming, states were trying to draw people in. There was incentives. They wanted more people in their states. That helps create the representation. So it doesn't necessarily apply to the here and now, this section, in the sense of allowing people to migrate or import, so to speak, which means back then they could reach out and say, hey, Scotland, Ireland, whoever, you come here and we'll help provide you a better way of life and give you somewhere to live. I suppose that's still a doable thing, but the federal government controls immigration at this point in time. We talked about that in the last section. And this was just for the beginning of our nation. So, the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus shall not be suspended unless when in cases of rebellion or invasion, the public safety may require it. Oh, interesting one, right? So what's going on in Portland right now, in Seattle and in New York and a bunch of these other big cities, these insurrections, yes, I said it, these insurrections of these law-abiding domestic terrorists, and they're not right-wing people. Believe me, I've been there. I've seen it. These people are self-proclaimed left-wing people, leftists. So what it says here is that the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus, or the rule of law, we'll just go with that, shall not be suspended, which means we will not declare martial law unless when in cases of rebellion or invasion, the public safety may require it. And I would question, I don't know if it's a national thing. I don't know if the whole nation needs to be put into lose the privilege of habeas corpus, right? And be put into a martial law sense. But I sure know that there's some cities that could use it, at least just to get back on their feet. No bill of attainder. Let me highlight that. No bill of attainder or ex post facto law shall be passed. So that means they can't retroactive things on you. Let's go here. No capitation or other direct tax shall be laid unless in proportion to the census or enumeration herein before directed to be taken. That's a lot of minutia there, but basically what it's saying is if they're going to tax this person or this industry or that style of I guess industry, I don't even know what else to say, or state, it has to be even across the board. That's all that's really saying. I'm sure there's more to it than that, but once again, I told you, I'm trying to read this as just a man that's reading it on his own without a law degree and trying to say, what does this mean to me? So that's what it means to me. Let's go here. No tax or duty shall be laid on articles exported from any state. What that's saying is that you can't, one state can't put a tax or duty on articles that are exported from another state, right? We're the United States. So there is no import-export tax between the states. That's what that's saying. All right, we'll continue on. No preference shall be given by any regulation of commerce or revenue to the ports of one state over those of another, nor shall vessels bound to or from one state be obliged to enter, clear, or pay duties in another. So once again, that's just creating these sort of states' rights stuff type of things here, right? That's a lot of it. And so I know it says powers denied Congress, but it's saying that that they can't impose these states, there are these taxes and these importation fees and tariffs and levies. But something else this talks about, no preference shall be given by any regulation of commerce or revenue to the ports of one state over those of another. It doesn't say that the states can't deny the use of a port for certain industries, right? So like the state of Washington, for instance, Oregon and California, freaking disasters, right, when it comes to politics and common sense in most cases, as far as the leading leaders that we unfortunately have in place. So, you know, we can't ship natural gas in and out of our state. I think it's natural gas via shipping lanes. If we could, man, we could really, really supply the Asians with abundant energy and really have a good fight against the Chinese as far as what they're doing in the Spratly Islands and the South China Sea and things of that nature. Those countries need help. And if we could get them some natural gas and some propane and some energy and some cheap energy, that would boost them a lot. And this says that the government can't use one state over another. It has to be equal across the board, but the states can deny that. All right. No money shall be drawn from the Treasury, but in the consequence of appropriations made by law, and a regular statement and account of the receipts and expenditures of all public money shall be published from time to time. Okay. So what that's saying is that unless it was in the budget and it was passed by law, it's not supposed to be spent. Pretty simple. That's why these congressmen spend most of their time, not all their time, they spend a little bit of their time on things that matter, but most of their time getting their little pet projects in and getting their millions of dollars for their little creek or whatever it might be into these bills that represent something else. They spend all their time doing that because if it doesn't actually get into a budget, into a bill, it can't be spent and they can't bring home the bacon. That's why they call it pork. They can't bring home the bacon, and then all of a sudden they're not getting reelected next year, right? And what's a congressman's number one goal? To get reelected, it seems like. Just what I'm seeing. Okay. And then this one's kind of easy. it says no title of nobility shall be granted by the United States, and no person holding any office of profit or trust under them shall, without the consent of the Congress, except of any present emolument, office, or title of any kind whatsoever from any king, prince, or foreign state. In other words, you can't be dubbed a duke and get awarded land somewhere in the United States or put in charge of somebody just because of your title. The Constitution says no. And that was part of the resistance of the whole nobility class in Europe, the kings and the dukes and the earls, and they owned everything and were in charge of everything, and you and I were just peasants. It almost seems like that's the direction they're trying to bring us back to. Thank God we have a Constitution, though, right? To keep us on the straight and narrow. If only we could convince our government to work within the boundaries of this Constitution. I just don't get it why they're not. All right, so let's talk about that. So that was powers denied to the Congress. Powers denied to the states. No state, and I know I'm going through this kind of quick, but man, these are long. This is a long section. I want to get on to Article 2. So Section 10, powers denied to the states. No state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque or reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts, pass any bill of attainder, ex post facto law, or law impairing the obligation of contracts, or grant any title of nobility. Wow, that says a lot. But if you just read it slowly, you can understand everything it says. We don't really have to break that down. It basically says that a state can't enter into a treaty or a compact or declare war or print money or any of that kind of stuff with another country, right? It's all part of our United States, not this state versus that state, or this state's in cahoots with China, but this state isn't. That's what it's talking about. So you guys can read that one nice and slow. It's self-explanatory. Doesn't need a lot of explanation. All right. The next one. No state shall, without the consent of the Congress, lay any imposts or duties on imports or exports, except what may be absolutely necessary for executing its inspection laws. And the net produce of all duties and imposts laid by any state on imports or exports shall be for the use of the Treasury of the United States, and all such laws shall be subject to the revision and control of the Congress. So basically, if a state wants to impose a duty or a tariff on things that are coming and going from outside the country, remember, they can't do it on each other. States can't impose tariffs and fees on each other, but they can do that on imports coming from outside the country. So if they do that, they can only do it in the amount necessary to provide for the inspections and the safety and the ports and things of that nature that have to do with that import, right? And that money has to be approved or has to go to the federal government. That's what it talks about. And the Congress has to approve it. The state can't just say, hey, we're going to do this and do it. It has to go through the Congress to say, yes, that makes sense. You're doing it correctly. You're putting it in the right place. You're doing the right things with it. Okay. So we're going to keep going. This is going to be the end of Section 1. No state shall, without the consent of Congress, lay any duty of tonnage, keep troops or ships of war in time of peace, enter into any agreement or combat with other state or with a foreign power, or engage in war unless actually invaded or in such imminent danger as will not admit of delay. So once again, we could break that down. We could sit here and discuss that for a long time. Pretty self-explanatory. Basically, it says that the states can't have their own standing armies or standing navies. It's United States Army, United States Navy. You know, the National Guard's a whole separate entity. We talked about that earlier on. But it's still, when you think about it, it's still under control of the United States Army once they're called upon to go into duty. All right. But yeah, so they can't declare war, and they can't go to war, and they definitely can't go to war with each other. We already tried that once. Didn't work out so well, right? And hopefully that's not the direction we're leaning in now. Um, but who knows? Who knows? So that is the end of section 1 finally. Um, kind of to give you a quick recap. Uh, section 1 talks about, I'm going to get this, maybe I'm going to get this back up. Hang on for a second. That's not actually the one I was looking for. That's the one I was looking for. So yeah, so the Constitution, section 1. What I want you guys to know about this, the most important thing to know about Article 1 in the Constitution is that it establishes the Congress. It puts in place the House of Representatives and the Senate. It talks about how they're supposed to run, how they're supposed to manage bills, how they're supposed to make laws, how they're supposed to work with each other, how they're supposed to budget, how they're supposed to oversee each other, how they're supposed to be the checks and balances on the other two branches that we're going to talk about next. It gives a lot of indications on what states can and can't do, what the federal government can and can't do. But what you did not see in there anywhere was what the people can and can't do. You didn't see that anywhere in Article 1, right? It's all about what the government can and can't do. So it's up to us as the people. Like I said in my opening statement, it's up to we, the people, to get out there and make sure the government knows what we'll accept and what we won't. And if we have to go and arrest every single sitting congressman and senator and swap them all out for brand new folks at some point in time, so be it. Whatever has to happen at that point in time has to happen. But we have to follow the Constitution. And the Constitution gives us a way to do this without any violence, without any war, right? It gives us a way to do this in a peaceful way, but we have to stand up and do it. We can't just roll over. We just can't be lemmings jumping off the cliff because the guy in front of us did. And that's exactly what's happening today. But we're growing. There's more and more of us on every day. There's more and more of us on every street corner and in every community, and we're growing and we're getting stronger, and we're not going to take it anymore. And the famous words of Quiet Riot, right? We're not going to take it. So that's it for tonight. Next week, we're going to get into Article 2, right? I have it right here. It's about the executive branch. It's not nearly as long as Article 1. And the interesting thing about this is we're the first country in the history of the world to have this particular position, this executive branch position. So we'll get into the executive branch. We can probably get through that, I would say, maybe in one, maybe two at the most episodes, and we'll keep on pushing. So I'll try and do another one tomorrow. I appreciate you being here. If you like what you saw, even if you don't like what you saw, but you like the last one, click on that subscribe, click on that like, share it with your friends. Let's grow this thing. It's going to get better and better every time, and I'm going to find more cool stuff to talk about, and we'll just keep on going. So God bless you. God bless America. You have a great evening. Good night.